curry butternut squash soup has become a favorite of mine. In the cold months of the year, I usually make large batches of butternut squash soup and freeze portions to be eaten later. Today I'm making a single batch, but this recipe doubles or triples very easily. I first tried this curry butternut squash soup a few years ago when my youngest daughter brought some soup to a large family gathering. I really like curry, so I was curious to try it, and I was surprised at how delicious it was. Truthfully, I've never really liked squash. Cooked squash is squishy. My aversion was really just a texture thing, not a flavor thing. But this soup doesn't have a squishy texture. I enjoyed it so much, I asked for the recipe, and I have made several different versions ever since then. I was surprised at the natural sweetness of butternut squash. Some curry soup recipes call for an apple or a pear to add additional sweetness, but I find butternut squash is sweet enough on its own. The soup recipe I am making today is very simple. For this recipe, you will need a butternut squash. These come in many different sizes. An onion, garlic, ginger. I like using fresh, but you can use powder in a pinch. Extra virgin olive oil, a tablespoon of curry powder. Curry is not a single spice, it's a blend of many different spices. There are different kinds of curries: red curry, yellow curry, green curry, hot, medium, and mild curries. The curry mixture that I'm using contains turmeric, coriander, fenugreek, cumin, black pepper, ginger, mustard, fennel, allspice, and chili pepper. You can add more of the spice if you want a stronger flavor. You will need 2 cups of vegetable broth, depending on how thick you want the soup. When shopping for vegetable broth, buy organic and look at the label on the back. I look for the variety that does not contain extra sugar. You may want to consider making your own vegetable broth. This way you know exactly the content of the broth. And you will need a half a can of coconut milk. Again, when purchasing coconut milk, look for the brand that does not have added sugar. You will find this information on the label. Other things you will need: a cutting board, a knife, a potato peeler, a baking sheet for roasting, a pot for sautéing and simmering, and an immersion blender. I find it easiest to peel the squash prior to roasting. I slice it into large pieces and remove the seeds. I then arrange the slices evenly on a baking sheet and bake at 375 degrees for about 30 to 35 minutes. It really depends on the size of the slices. Stick a fork in the squash to test for the doneness. If it's too firm, leave it in longer. While the squash is baking, dice up some onion, a half to a whole onion depending on how much you like it. Peel and dice some garlic and ginger. Sauté the onion, ginger, and garlic in a bit of olive oil until the onions are translucent. Add the curry powder and vegetable broth. Set this aside until the squash is finished roasting. When the squash is finished baking, chunk it and add it to the pot and bring everything to a boil. Simmer uncovered for 5 minutes or so. We're just infusing all of the flavors. Use an immersion blender to blend all of the ingredients until they are smooth. Then add the coconut milk and blend again. This soup is sure to bowl you over. Knowing some of the health benefits will be the cherry on top of this delicious soup. Here are just a few. Butternut squash is high in potassium, even more than bananas. Potassium helps support a healthy blood pressure, among other things. It is high in non-soluble fiber, which helps regulate blood sugar, feeds the gut bacteria, and helps things move along easily in the digestive tract. It is high in antioxidants, which, as you may know, prevent cellular damage and reduces inflammation. It also contains high amounts of vitamin C, vitamin E, and beta-carotene. This is a great cold weather soup, but I make it all year long.